It would simply mean that before presenting your own point of view, it would be necessary for you to really achieve the other speaker's frame of reference. To understand his thoughts and feelings so well that you could summarize them for him. And that's useful too, because, you know, the way we remember things is if you tell me a long story, and I tell it back to you. I do not tell it back to you. What happens is I listen to it, and I try to figure out what the thread of the argument is. And then when I tell it back to you, it's way shorter and tighter. And that means in some sense it's got all the essentials, but it's got less of the baggage. Right? That's what you're kind of doing when you ask someone to get to the point. So they tell you this long story. It's like this tree that it's full of dead branches and it hasn't been pruned. And there it's standing there. And you know, maybe the living branches you can hardly even see. But you're concentrating on them. And then when you tell it back to them, you just tell them the part of the story that's alive. And they listen to that. And they think, oh yes, that's what I meant. And then that means you've changed the memory. Right? If they agree, you've changed the memory. You've divested it of all the excess baggage, just like pruning. And that's what you're doing. And so that dialogue it's mental hygiene. And that's what people do. You know, you've got to wonder, well, why do we talk? Well, it's to exchange information. Yeah, and there's utility in it. You know, like if you know how to do something and I don't, you can tell me. But that isn't the sort of thing that people are doing most of the time. Most of the time they're telling their stories. This is what happened to me. Right? And then the other person will say, well, this is what happened to me. And there's this mutual attempt to organize. That's how people are organizing their brains. We organize our brains by talking. And so if you don't have someone to listen to you, well, especially if it's over a few decades, you're going to have a brain that's like a whole forest of trees that needs a forest fire. It doesn't need just some, you know, trimming. It's really in trouble. So you need to have someone to listen to you. And the best way to get someone like that is to find a bunch of people and listen to them. Because, you know, of course, then that's a friendship. That's a real friendship, you know, because you're both trying to move towards a better place, whatever that place is. And it's a great relationship then. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But if you try it, you'll discover it's one of the most difficult things you've ever tried to do.